everybody, this is Marie, and welcome to Marie's Chatty Tarot. Today, we are going to have a quick chat about Vivek Ramaswamy, and we just want to take a look uh, and see, what the cards wants to share about him, first of all. And second question is he a Trojan horse? So, without any further ado, for those interested, today I'm going to be using the Art of Adventure Tarot deck. Pretty cool deck. Reads like a dream. Love it. Love the design. Pretty cool. So, I do want to say thank you to my current and new subscribers on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate the support, the likes, the share, everything in between. And like I mentioned before, uh, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's getting a lot of exposures. He started a few months ago, seemingly out of nowhere. He's been doing like a lot of those, how do you say that? Long form interviews. So long form interviews are typical interviews that are like an hour long to an hour and a half long, where people get a chance to hear an interview take place without interruption, without commercial, and without the necessary sound bites. You really get a chance to hear, a person's thought on a lot of different issues. Vivek Ramaswamy, he have done a lot of these interviews so far, a lot of these podcasts, and um, and he's been very optimistic, very eloquent, very relatable, and it looks like a lot of people are liking what they're hearing. So I figured, because now he's taking a lead ahead of Ron DeSantis in some polls. He looks like he's ahead, like second place, some third. It depends on the poll and who's conducting um, the um, how, whether they're left leaning or right leaning, whoever's conducting those polls. But regardless, he's in the top three. Let's just put it that way, right? With Trump, Mr. T being on top. So I think the first question that we want to ask, so we know who he is to some degree based on the interviews that we see. So we wanted to ask the card, what's the card? What we need to know, or what is the card wants to share about Vivek Ramaswamy, besides what's already out there, right? So we want to know what the cards wants to share about Vivek Ramaswamy. So Vivek Ramaswamy, he was born here in the States, but his parents are immigrants from India, and they worked hard, and they were able to have Vivek have a very good education, where he went to Harvard um, and Yale, and afterwards he started a company in the pharmaceutical industry, where he was like a biotech, either engineer or something to that effect, and became a CEO to such company, done pretty well for himself, married, 2 young kids. So this is what is written out there about him. But I am more interested about what the cards wants to share about Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay. So we're gonna be doing the Kachina knife. So Knight of Pentacle is the first card. Pretty interested. So the Knight of Pentacle is usually, sorry, not the Knight, the King of Pentacle. Somebody who's very successful, who's mastered how to manifest wealth, how to create wealth, and how to sustain it. Um, uh, Eight of Swords situation. It's usually more to the story that needs to be revealed. Four of Pentacle, somebody who's either frugal, or usually when I get this card is the Four of Pentacles, somebody who's frugal, conservative in so many ways, and also who's all about keeping, staying on top, uh, wanting to maintain power, status, and all that jazz. And all of those layers can apply. So let's see what else the card was to say. Page of Swords. So Page of Sword for present time represent, um, uh, it's a pivot, it's a message, it's a messenger. Sometimes the message is not great news, it's uncomfortable news, because anything that deals with swords is uh, truth words, information. Truth words, information, and because it's sword, it's not comfortable. It's on very uncomfortable information. So, outcome, Justice card. Okay, that's a major arcana. It's interesting. Hangman as clarification, another major arcana. And the Fool, again, another major arcana as clarification. So we asked what else does the card was to share about Vivek Ramaswamy besides what we know. So he's somebody very successful, right? Um, there's different way of looking at it. He can be seen as somebody who's stubborn, somebody who's really set in his ways, or it could be seen that there's more to the story that needs to be revealed, either about him or around him, or about his camp or his policies. Because this card, you can see this person is blindfolded and look that he's in binding, in bondage of sort. So it can be seen that, very set in your ways, not open to see other possibility, and that can be one thing. And the other way of looking at it is somebody who's being, there's more to the story, or there's more about him that needs to be revealed. So in the past, and somebody that's either greedy, or somebody very about keeping power, maintaining power, or somebody conservative, or somebody very um, 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 conservative, wanting to be in power, or frugal. That's another way of looking at it. And all can apply. So that's the recent past. So it's not surprising, because he used to work in the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm pretty sure when you are at the top level, there are certain behavior, like cutthroat, that seems to be acceptable. So it's not unusual to see the Four of Pentacle here. And then the Page of Swords, present time, pivot, new information, new beginning. So some information might be coming out that's like, I'm not saying it's a big red flag, but it might be a small red flag. Maybe information that's coming about him that give you pause, right? Because sword is a little uncomfortable. And outcome is justice. So justice is about, can be seen differently, different ways. So either around October-ish, more information is going to be coming out either about him, or maybe there's going to be some legal issues about him coming out. So it could be two layers. First layers, information coming out, because it's about communication. Libra is about communication. Another way is that he might be entangled in some legalities around, October, November. That, you know what, I feel September to October ish. He might be entangled in some legal stuff, uh, that's gonna have people kind of either get another perspective, or look at him a little bit different, because the Hangman is about seeing in an uncomfortable situation, for us to look at a person in a different light, right? And the Fool, as another clarification, is about uh, 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 new beginning, new, new, new way of looking at things, a new path, a new journey. So we ask, what else? The cards was to say. So about him. So it can go both ways. And he, the other layer, just in case, I just want to cover all the bases. He might be a person who's very good at communicating, very good at sharing, or very good at, very eloquent, and that force people to look at things differently, or waking up people and forcing people to want to take a new path, a positive path. So that's different layers of looking at this. So that's pretty interesting. But the page of sword in the middle gives me pause, because the page of sword is information that is uncomfortable, that is, that makes you pause a little bit about here and there. So it can be about sharing information, that he forced people to really think things through, the way he communicates. So there's different layers here. So I thought that's pretty interesting, of the layers. It's not committing to um, one way or the other. That's pretty cool. Two more cards. Queen of Swords. So there's going to be a lot of information coming out. Oh, wow. So Queen of Swords is about being very cut and dry kind of thing. Information that's going to be coming out. That Ten of Sword. So this is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Information that people are going to have to force to accept about him. Because the surrender card is, there's no way if about it. It's an ending card. It could be a betrayal card. It could be uh, uh, a completion card. But here it feels like there's going to be information that's going to come out that that's you know either shut down his campaign, or uh, that reevaluates people, how people see him. Okay, okay. So that's interesting in itself. So the next question is he a Trojan horse? Is Vivek Ramaswamy a suit in sheep clothing, right? In elite in a wolf in sheep clothing, or a Trojan horse? So because he's rising in the ranks, he seems pretty cool. He seems pretty approachable. Like I said, if you've seen his long form interviews, it's pretty cool, right? He's using a lot of Trump strategies. He's very charismatic. So makes one think, a person that bedazzles so much must not be real. So the question is Vivek Ramaswamy a Trojan horse? I know. Silly question to ask, but we know that there's a lot going on that we don't see. It doesn't hurt. I don't think it hurts to ask that question. If it's real and authentic, that's beautiful. And if it's not, let's see the cards after share. Vivek Ramaswamy, is he a Trojan horse to the Republican Party? Okay. So the first card is Nine of Pentacles. Strength card. That's the major arcana, a situation. Knight of Wands, recent past. Temperance, major arcana, present. Knight of Cups, two knights. That's pretty interesting as a potential outcome. Page of Cups, clarification. And Ace of Cups, clarification. So we asked, is he a Trojan horse? So it looks like he's an independent thinker with that Knight of Cups. Somebody who's very independent, very self-sufficient. in mind, body, spirit, soul, all that jazz. He's somebody with a lot of inner strength, you know, like type A personality or leader type of personality. And I think we've seen that during the debate last week. Um, because today is what, the 28th. Yeah. So the the debate, uh the primary was like what, the Thursday or the 24th or something. So he has inner strength, patience. So okay, so that kind of makes sense. Uh, so Knight of Wands in the recent past. So Knight of Wands is usually for me my good military card, believe it or not. So that's interesting. So he seems, um, or the other way of looking at it is somebody who's very passionate, who's very ambitious, because fire, one is associated with fire, and fire is associated with energies, is associated with motivation, with passion, with what drives you, what gets you out of bed. So all of that, he's somebody who's driven. He's somebody that's very passionate, very motivated, very charismatic. So all of this, Knight of Wands, I think this is, it's in it's in line with his personality type. So far so good. Temperance card is a major arcana, and this represents present time. Temperance is usually, he's not, he's an independent thinker based on the Nine of Pentacles. So the Temperance tells me that he's not one way or the other. He's not uh, alliance, and he's not cabal either. So he's just a free thinker. He's going with his own flow kind of thing. And the Temperance tells me he's just go to accord to his own principle, to own how his belief. And because Temperance is, deals with emotion to some degree because of the water, but more about, he's coming across, uh I think the word as temperance is balance, as a moderate. But because the political sphere is so out of whack, people don't see that. They see him as an extremist leftist. But if all conditions were normal, he would have been considered like a moderate type of guy. So the temperance kind of alludes to that, and also alludes to the fact that he's kind of playing a fine dance between the good and the bad kind of thing. So he's not leaning in any particular way. He's just doing his thing. Okay. Knight of Cups, outcome. So we asked, is he a Trojan horse? So the outcome is the Knight of Cups. So the Knight of Cups is usually somebody who's driven, their emotion drives them to action. Emotionally driven. It will be the best way of looking at it. So if some people love music the way, because of the way it makes them feel, and um, and that's being driven. And some people like musics because the way, uh, how they analyze the sounds and the frequency. So that's, you know, soared. So that person is driven by their emotion. They're sensitive to, they have a emotional maturity where they can relate to other people pretty well. They can tap into that to some degree, and then they're able to to and they're very good at uh, using it as motivation, or to keep going or to move forward. And that's what that Knight of Cups is telling me. Now they tend to be a little fickle though, because the Knight of Cups, again, the emotion can change at any moment, right? So that's pretty interesting. So he haven't decided yet. He's his own person, and kind of getting a taste of both sides. And what outcome is that he's emotionally driven, and Page of Cups tells me that there's an innocence, there's this optimism about him. I think we've seen that. And he wants to bring about change with the Ace of Cups. So that's, Ace of Cups. Again, new emotional awareness. And I think people are feeling that from him, emotional optimism about the way that he talks about America, about what he wants to accomplish, how he wants to move forward, if anybody had a chance to. So, Trojan horse, the card is not saying, which I thought is interesting. The Temperance card says it all. So he's not one way or the other. He looks like he's his own person, that he's doing his own thing. And what drives him is his emotion, and that there's this optimism, there's this idealism about him. Uh, uh, a lot of people are seeing it, a lot of people are kind of liking that vitality, that freshness in that Ace of Cup. It looks like a lot of people wants to be swept by the whole image or the idea that he wants, his position, right? With that Ace of Cup, because Ace of Cup is a new beginning. So let me take 2 cards just to see. So 2 of Cups. So 2 of Cups is commitment, is partnership or agreement of sort. Okay, so I guess so there's an agreement somewhere, somehow. The card is not saying who with who, but uh 7 of sword is usually a strategy sword. Well, not strategy, but more like being cunning. If use able to use, I'm not saying propaganda because it's not. It feels more like very, very good at sharing your strategically sharing your thoughts or truth words information, or very cunning in the way they speak, kind of like a smooth operator kind of feel, kind of thing. So that's pretty interesting. So he's his own person, uh driven by emotion. So we asked a question, the card, is he a Trojan horse? It said the card, based on the temperance that I'm seeing here, he's kind of in the middle. He haven't made a decision yet, but in the Knight of Cups, what drives him is his emotion, right? He kind of have this innocent, not innocent, this idealistic streak about him. Uh, and this is also a card of surprise, messenger as well, all of the above. But here it feels more like idealistic. And because of that, he's gonna kind of inject some vitality, or inject some, give birth to this whole energy. Okay. And the 2 cards, commitment, and so he's like, he made this agreement to being, I'm guessing he's putting information strategically here. He's not a good guy or a bad guy, but I probably dare to awake people, to wake up people. And yeah, there might be some funny business going on too. So the next card that I pick up, so I'm picking 2 more cards because I'm still wanting to get more information, because 3 of Swords is usually about loss, it's usually about betrayal, and the Emperor is usually my alliance card. So there might be some funny business going on, especially with that. I mean, 7 of Swords is not necessarily a bad card. It's about somebody being cunning in how they speak, or know how to avoid a certain minefield, landmine, right, that the media is throwing out there. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it looks like he's committed, to, but usually it's about getting away with something. So I wonder what that means. And 3 of Swords is about loss. So there might be something either about him or uh, uh, around him. So it's he may or may not be working with the good guys. There's, or maybe he made an agreement at one point. But the card is saying that, again, not one way or the other. So, okay, not whatever we see is bedazzled. So what else does the card wants to share? Should we be worried about this gentleman? I think that's the next question to ask at this point. We're committed here. Should we be worried about Vivek being a bad guy? So 5 of Pentacles, first card. 8 of Wands. 4 of Wands. 7 of Cups. So we ask, is Vivek a bad guy? Wheel of Fortune, outcome. 4 of Coins. And the Moon. So usually the 5 of Pentacles depicts either loss in status or loss, recent financial setbacks. Okay, that's interesting, because we asked, is Vivek a bad, a bad actor or a bad guy, right? Sometimes you just have to flat ask the card. 8 of Wands. 8 of Wands is usually a traveling card, a movement card. It also could mean like everything is aligning. So I think we've heard the story about, what comes to mind is that we've heard the story of him uh, uh, ahead of this company, uh, this pharmaceutical company, and then he was getting a significant amount of pressure from the BLM, from his employees who wanted him to support BLM and a bunch of other woke nonsense. And because of that, I think he either left of his own free will, or but he's no longer in control of that pharmaceutical company anymore. He left. So okay, that feels like it's alluding to that. So we asked the question: is he a good guy, or is he working for the good, or something to that effect? So 4 of Wands usually mean that somebody who's very happy, very celebratory, kind of feel who've done well for himself. 4 of Wands is usually reunion, happiness, marriage. So okay, um, that's that. Present time. So we ask the question again: is he a good guy? 7 of Cups is usually a dysfunction card. It can be different choices, yes, but it can be a delusion. Usually when I get that, especially seeing it in the middle, delusion card, and we ask the question: is he a good guy? It looks like whatever bedazzle that we're seeing right now is gonna that fortune, we're gonna see the flip side of it, right? And that 4 of Pentacle, 4 of Pentacle usually can be frugal, can be conservative, but it can also come across as somebody who wants to hold on to power, who wants to hold on to his money, his greed, his power, and his position, his status. So that's, and the Moon card is about, um, there's more to be revealed. So it's as if the cards want, there's this shadowy element around each of those readings, that gives me pause. As if there's something, oh yeah, he's a great guy, but I kind of feel, right? So he had some setbacks. And, um, that had forced him, either forced him or because of that, had motivated him to pivot, to move in a different direction. And in the past, he had been doing very good for himself. But presently, presently, it's as if there's a pipe dream going on, um, surrounding him, about his campaign. All of this is like a pipe dream. That's how this is coming across. Um, and it looks like that pipe dream is gonna, that fortune is gonna change for him, and probably gonna reveal who really, really is. And the clarification is the fourth pentacle, which is about greed, holding on to power. At least that's what it is for me in this particular situation. And then the moon on top of that, it's usually there's more to be revealed, and to proceed with caution as well. And for, I'm taking two more cards just to be sure. Again, I'm seeing this again. So Four of Cups is usually somebody who's uh, uh, out of nowhere, or if while they're not paying attention, things or information is going to be coming out, and that's going to be revealed, and that information is not going to be pleasant. So it looks like it's about Vivek in general. So, okay. So that's interesting. Wow. Thank you guys for the things you learned. I who would have thought, right? But hey, sometimes it's always good to hear what the cards have to chat about. Thank you guys for sticking with me to the end of this video. That was unexpected. And feel free to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.